got a special guest again with us today, joining Dan and I. Alexa, welcome to Option 5.
Hey,
It's nice to have you on today.
thanks for having me. I had to reciprocate Dan's raise the
Thank
roof
you.
motion.
Thank you.
Was that a raise the roof? What
I
is
think
this?
it was raise the roof.
It's
No,
94?
I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, you just
I was
doing
like
all
halfway raise the roof / Chandler Bing,
Chandler. Alexa, you've been with Crema for
I'll
5?
help you.
The
Yeah.
Cinco.
I know this
5
fall will be 5
years.
years.
That's fantastic.
I know it really is.
So you've been in a couple different roles with Crema. You started as at that time we were still calling them project managers. Yes.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yes?
I was the second.
The
Mhm.
second. That's right. You were number 2 after the
I
Michael
was.
Luchin.
He had talk about big shoes to fill. We don't need to get into that right now. That's maybe for a later episode.
He shaped a lot of what we do. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, he really did. Really does still.
So you did. Then we kind of pivoted while you were in that role to really leaning into product management, owning the fact that we're a software and design agency. We do product. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what the industry calls it. And you leaned heavily into that transition, helped us make that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And during that time too, we also said, hey, let's formalize some stuff. And so I remember Dan, you, me, and Michael getting Scrum certified and helping really like formalize some of our processes that were happening naturally, but we were naming things more and really trying to identify what product management looks like at Crema. So I was at one point a Scrum Master. I think my certification has expired.
That was such a cold room.
Journey.
Do you remember that?
No, that was great.
Freezing in there. And then we didn't get to have lunch when we
No
went
lunch was served or granted.
And it was just, people got hangry real fast.
And you know me, Dan, I got really, really hangry. It's a character flaw of mine.
I couldn't believe it. It's like, so when do we get to eat?
Yeah.
We expect food, people. There's going to be riots.
But that's what you go through to become Scrum certified. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So Alexa, then you moved into a business development role, working with Nate on our sales team. I'm trying to think how long you were in that for. About a year and a half?
Yeah, about a year. And that happened. It was also kind of an organic evolution. It was Crema was growing and Nate had always been the only salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a lot of like account growth with our clients as a PM. Yeah. And we were having a one-on-one one day. He was like, hey, what do you think about maybe moving into the sales process with me and maybe building up our pipeline a little bit more, we were doing a lot of outbound
the outbound
at
stuff.
the time. That was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing a lot of learning and experimentation on the sales side of things for an agency, which I'm sure a lot of listeners who are in the agency world know that there's no recipe to getting new prospects.
No silver bullet to getting clients. Yep.
Right. So we really tried to say, okay, referrals have been great the last, 7 years or so, but how can we bring more people into the pipeline? So worked with Nate on the sales side of things for a long time, working on pitches and identifying that he's really good at closing and negotiating. I was a lot better at the top of the funnel. So just kind of working together to figure out how we collaborate best.
And looking back, it's interesting because while you were working with him, it's also a period of time when we really started to define process again.
Yeah.
So you did a lot with him on trying to kind of say, there's now more than you doing this. Let's think about how we do this and start to define some structure to define the disciplines of how you do that work, which I think was really, really good.
Yeah. Setting up some disciplines, like you said. I think we had a lot of things happened in that 18 months when I was on the sales team that I think we've even built on way more now that, Nate and others now touch the sales process. So that was a formative time as well, I think, in the lifeline of the agency.
And then about, a year ago? No, right. A little over a year ago.
That sounds right.
I don't know. Dan, you're so much better with dates.
I will say.
So now you're on the growth team.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Effectively, you're the team lead of the growth team. What does that mean?
Yeah. What is our growth team?
Growth?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thanks for moving us forward.
That was great. Well, so we call it a growth team because we view it a lot more than just marketing. But if you want to simplify it, it really is our marketing efforts. Like, how do we tell the world about Crema? How do we increase our thought leadership, our brand equity? How do we maintain our position as a really premium agency? And I basically am the project manager for all those initiatives. So when you boil it down, that's basically what I do, but there's so much more that goes into it. It's such a great process. We have an awesome team helping to really spread the message of Crema. We have if I can get into the kind of the team makeup.
Describe because it is a cross-discipline team, not a product team in our traditional sense, but another cross-discipline team inside of Crema. So describe that for us.
Yeah, very much. And that was intentional. I think, we see a lot of success with these diverse, small cross-discipline teams building products. And so we kind of emulated that on the growth team. So we have a content specialist, and she actually came on, this is in no particular order, but she was an intern first. This person, Julie, has really helped, come in and learn how we talk about ourselves. And so she's really responsible with crafting a lot of our content. We also have Larissa, who's our multimedia specialist, who's just a huge proponent of all video and the podcast, of course, which is why I'm smiling, because she's helping us create this right now.
She is live with us right now. You just can't see her.
And if you guys have tuned into our YouTube channel, either on this video or on Crema's channel, I mean, she's been a huge advocate for helping us grow. We have over 11,000 followers now. So that's been really amazing. Awesome. And she's helped optimize everything about our video process, which has been great. Then we have a more traditional marketing specialist in Gabby. And that was a role that we really wanted for a long time, but it just wasn't the right time for us. And then he joined about a year and a half ago and has just been a huge proponent of SEO. How can we, our site, how can we run ads a little bit better than we've done in the past? How can we just formalize some more processes there? And she's touching a lot of our marketing efforts and sort of, helping lead us in where we go with our content and ads and things like that. And so then we've got you, George, to be honest.
I help out. Most of the time I just get in the way and distract the team, but you guys are doing incredible work. Talk a little bit about what are some of the, let's start first actually with disciplines. Usually I start with postures, and I think we'll get to postures in a second, but let's start with some of the disciplines. What are the things that team does? You already mentioned that they're trying to drive people to know that Crema exists and what we want to be famous for, but what are some of the activities? What are some of the disciplines of that team?
Yeah, so I've already mentioned we really try to emulate our product teams. So we've pulled in our own kind of version of agile marketing based on how we see our product teams run. So we work in 2-week sprints. That's a discipline that we have where we convene. In fact, tomorrow we have our sprint kickoff.
I know, and that's probably the most. I need to get ready.
I know. We gotta work on that. So we meet every 2 weeks to say, hey, how we start with perspective, which I know we beat that drum a lot on the show, but it's just so important to look back and understand what went well over the weeks and how we could improve. So that's a big discipline for us. We then move into sort of a demo and conversation for a while and say, hey, let's showcase some of the work that we've done. Let's ask questions on things that we need clarity for. And then we start to plan our sprint. So we go down the line of all of our projects. We're using Asana again, which is ironic because that's the tool that I used in the beginning of my tenure at Crema, and now we're back to it, and it's so refreshing.
I love it.
I know. And a couple other disciplines I'll mention. We have, especially now that we're distributed, we do a daily stand-up. So every morning at 9:30 Central, we hop on a Zoom for just 15 minutes. That's all it takes. And that gives us a time just to say hi and see each other's faces, and also talk about what we accomplished yesterday and what we're going to do on this day. And I think that really opens up the chance for us to know when we're going to be collaborating with people. Mm-hmm. It can be easy since we're so diverse and since everyone really has their own expertise. It can be easy maybe for people to peel away and just really knock things out on their own, unless we all come together and say, hey, how can we work together on things? Mm-hmm. So it just kind of infuses this sense of we need to collaborate. We need to make sure that we're touching base with our coaches, for example, or other members of the sales team to understand where our pipeline's at and what we can be putting out content-wise to maybe attract some new opportunities.
It'd be really easy for this type of team because we're not producing one particular product together like we do for most of our product teams. A lot of time, we're producing basically lots of products with this team. Yeah. It would be really easy for those people to get siloed. And we've talked about before that being either siloed or creating bottlenecks is one of the fastest ways to kill the momentum of an adaptive product team. And so I think you talking about those disciplines are huge for us to think about, really just saying, nope, we see you, we know you're there. Let's make sure that we're all in this together. How can we support each other? And I think you guys you do a really good job of keeping that discipline going, because it'd be easy to let that fall off.
Yeah, no, it's been good. And another thing that helps kind of reduce the silos is we really have this discipline of like sharing work in progress. And sometimes we have to remind each other like, hey, I want to see that. Even if you're not like actively contributing to it, we do try to like share progress on whether that's a new landing page or some new ad copy or a blog post. And that really helps us just stay in tune with each other and make sure that we're giving a lot of perspectives into what we put out there. So that's been really helpful as well.
Have you found that having a focus on being adaptive has made your team stronger and better?
Yes.
And if so, in what way? And also the follow-up question is that what changes or what new rhythms have you had to put in place now that we're all remote because of COVID?
Yeah, good questions. I think it's definitely made us stronger. This might be a cheap shot answer, but I think we've always been a really adaptive team because we're in service to the agency. And so we're trying to create content that helps serve our audiences, and those audiences might change based on who we're trying to attract. So I feel like we've always had this sense of like, be experimental, be adaptive, be flexible. Like don't hold anything too loosely. But I think that's been tested, honestly, over the last couple of months as we've been like, hey, everything's broken for everybody everywhere. Everything's changing. Let's lean into the discomfort here a little bit more. And like, I know we've been experimenting with some new offerings for tools. And those weren't things we really planned for at all this year. But our team has just committed to this idea that we're going to be adaptive. We might not know exactly what that offer looks like, but let's plan for it in our sprint planning. And then over those 2 weeks, let's convene and make sure that we're supporting the coaches in this example to get that launched to the world. So I do think COVID changed a lot for many different people. I'm sure we could spend the whole rest of the time talking about that. But for the growth team, it's really helped us, I think, fortify this fact that we are an active team and will have to continue to be to help serve the agency and help serve the clients that we want to attract as well.
So for anyone out there that's listening that is a team lead on marketing or oversees some aspect of their marketing or their growth team, regardless of the size, how would you encourage them? What are some helpful tips or things to consider? Because individuals that are in that role might be responsible or might have a lot of input into the marketing strategy. What's our marketing strategy coming up, especially now? It's like people are throwing out strategy and developing new strategies. How do you hold the balance of planning far enough ahead, but then also knowing we got to remain adaptive? If you were to think through that, what were maybe, even if it's just one thing, how would you encourage people to remain adaptive, even though they're trying to think strategically as long-term as they can?
Yes. Everything you just said, I feel it. I know a lot of marketers feel it.
Yeah.
You have to hold things loosely. And we spent a really good chunk of time at the end of 2019 planning out this year. And it wasn't down to a T. We knew things would change, but we had metrics across a lot of different channels that we wanted to hit this year. And I'm looking over at my screen because I have our list up right now. And I'm like, those are in need of an adjustment. Like we need to take a look at those and change them out. So one thing we're doing to address that is I'm setting up smaller meetings with like our design and strategy lead, Tyler, with our coaches, with Nate and our sales team, just to understand what their needs are and just having more frequent touch points with them. I think that will shape where we go from here. I'm also trying to get more strategic, or not strategic. I'm just trying to get more granular with some of our goals and the why behind them. So just restating like why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. But I do think it's these open conversations with the teams that you're in service to help understand like where the strategy ought to go now that things are where they're at, And so, and we're still a young team. We're still trying to formulate exactly how frequently we need to address our goals, how we need to change them.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything down packed, to be honest. We're just trying to be, trying to use those 2020 goals as like our roadmap, and then know that we're probably going to take some turns to, get gas over here, maybe stock up on snacks over here, to use that
Twinkies.
analogy.
Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's something that we're currently in the process of doing, and I don't have all the answers, and that's something that I've been looking at recently too. I'm like, how are people adjusting course?
Yeah.
Everyone's
It's not easy.
right?
No, that's good.
Yeah, and and it's this weird balance, right? When everything first hit, you might have seen, if you were paying attention to what Crema was doing, we pretty quickly had pivoted. We reacted, I think, pretty well, and
Yeah.
started putting out content, started putting out videos, and even a webinar that was really directly addressing the working remote, the understanding and empathizing with the pain that everybody had just gone through, having their structures broken, and we pushed into that hard. But I just saw recently a piece that was critiquing different advertisements that are still going on. And it's crazy that only a short period of time later, like what, a month and a half, 2 months later into this, that now people are starting to critique that you're insensitive if you're still trying to be the woe is me pandemic response. That's now old, 2 months ago, because people are tired of it. They need something that's entertaining, hopeful, inspiring, etc. But they don't want to be reminded of how bad it is still.
Right. Yeah.
And
I think they want to.
that's a weird balance.
It is, because I think people are like, okay, yes, I know what my company or my old company did, or what all these companies did in reaction
Yeah.
to it. Now I want to know what we're doing to move forward, so I can either get my job back, get a new job at another company. So it's like, yes, we all reacted. Now what? Now how do we move forward? What's like you said, George, what's going to be the hope for me down the road? And it doesn't have to be at my old company. Maybe it is, but what are companies, what's our economy going to do in general now that we reacted? Where's the hope going to come from? So yeah, I agree. I think it's like, okay, I'm past this. Now I need to move forward. Literally, I have to move forward.
I must. Yeah. And I think the position we take on the growth team is, how can we provide value right now? Like, we don't have to continually acknowledge that COVID is happening. We all are aware of that.
Yeah.
But where can we provide value for someone in their position right now to either make a decision or switch to a new tool, or maybe consider different ways to measure their ROI? Like, we're just trying to give people the tools they might need right now to do their jobs better, or to find that new job, whatever that might look like. So I agree. It's about hope and value.
So Lexi, you're kind of already lacing it in there, and I want to kind of push into it a little bit. We talked about some of the disciplines. What are some of the postures that you think either the growth team has or that we're trying to foster, even for yourself individually or as a team? What are some of the postures that you think the growth team embodies as we think about doing this work of trying to let the world know that Crema exists?
Yeah, I love that. I think we have this posture of experimentation. I know I've mentioned that a couple times, but there really is this idea that, like, we encourage people to speak up with new ideas, not only on the growth team, but across Crema as a whole. We're constantly trying to seed requests out there to say, hey, what kind of content do you want to write, developers or designers? Would this be a happy hour you want to join in on? Like, we're having one this afternoon, speaking to the design community and bring that group of people together. So there's this posture of experimentation and adaptability that I think has always been there. I talked about a little bit of this, but like in the retrospectives we have, I think there's a lot of self-correction and reflection that we do.
Yeah.
So like people, I hope we built up this posture of trust that when we go through the motions of a retro, people are really willing to share their true feelings and not sugarcoat a lot of things. And we have a lot of nice people on our team. So it's something that I need to remind everyone to say, hey, like, let's be honest with ourselves and with our team.
Yeah.
And really provide some critiques when needed, or some constructive criticisms, or, if something didn't go well, let's talk about why that is. So I think that self-reflection is a good posture to have on a marketing team as well. And there's always room to bring in the data. And sometimes we have to just say, hey, this isn't working. And what do we do now?
Nobody's responding to this campaign. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that is kind of a good and bad aspect of marketing, is that we can have numbers to look back on and help us make decisions as well.
Yeah, that's really, really good. If you were to kind of, this is one of the hardest questions, but if you were to think about some of the structures that kind of define what we think are the boundaries, the constraints to the great team that the growth team does, or the work that we're trying to do right now. It's always a big ask. What do you think some of those structures are on this team, or how have they been defined?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mentioned this earlier, but at the end of last year, we spent a lot of time planning. A lot of teams do, kind of looking ahead. And one of the activities we did was create a manifesto.
Yeah.
So this exercise, we did it in Miro, and it just kind of helped us formulate like who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds really touchy-feely, but what it ended up producing was this manifesto that we designed out, and I have available. I literally have it sitting out on my desktop at all times. I don't have it like buried away in a folder. And it basically sets the foundation for our growth team. We're a modern hub and spoke model of content marketing. We're comprised of content specialists and strategists that help try to grow trust in our audience and help them to understand who Crema is and what they do. And I think that has really set us up to understand our structure as a team. And it's something that I point back to probably once a month, or like bring
for
up
sure.
in our
You do. You do a
meeting,
really good job of that. Yep.
because I think it really matters, and it's evergreen enough to where it's not something we need to like, change this year even. It kind of set the tone for our year. It gave us that foundation. And then another structure I'll mention is we try to work in this aspect of peaks and constants. So we think of our constants as things that we're constantly doing, right? So we've got like our social media, our blogs, the podcast, our videos, all of these things that are just kind of table stakes that we have to do, our Google reviews, our Clutch reviews, things like that. And then these peaks are the larger initiatives that help maybe push us forward a little bit. So it's things like new tool trainings or launching the coaching service or bigger events like our webinar series. And that might require a little bit more work and collaboration, especially with people outside the growth team. But again, it helps us push forward. And so I think between the manifesto and this peaks and constants mentality, that's something that the growth team can really expect and hold on to. Yeah. So that when things change and we do need to be more flexible, we have those things to again, latch on to and help guide us.
Good. I mean, I think what I've been so impressed is that you are really great at going back to those things. And I think that's something that a lot of teams forget is they might write it down and they share it at the beginning, but over time it just kind of fades. It's like, leadership oftentimes will create mission, vision, values or purpose statement. And it's like, yep, we did that. Check the box. We've got some values. Everybody should know them. They're in the handbook. And then it's like, nobody knows what the values are. No, they're not reminded about them. It's not pushed forward. It's not laced into the language of everything you're doing. And I think you do a good job, not only championing Crema's values, because right, this is a team inside Crema, but also becoming up. I love the fact that you came up with your own, this was your idea, that you came up with a manifesto at your own kind of mission statement for your own team. And that mission statement is not in conflict with the larger organization. And I think that this is a really good exercise. It's something I've been thinking about for our coaches and for our framework, is that more teams should create a mission statement, or I like that manifesto word, for themselves. What do we as a team want to accomplish? Who are we and why do we exist? And I think that's a foundational structure that people should be able to say, name, stick up on the wall. I should probably print it off myself. I don't know where.
Yeah. Well, if we were all in an office together, we could have it pasted on the wall.
Too soon, Alexa.
I know. I don't even live in Kansas City.
Yeah, you've been remote for a while.
Well, and if it's possible, we could maybe share that out as an asset afterwards if people would want to see our version.
That's a great idea.
Just as inspiration. And it is just it's a thing, but I think it carries more weight the more you review it and remind the team about it. Like you said, like continue to go back to those things that give you purpose. And I like what you said, Georgia, because it isn't Crema's mission statement or our purpose statement,
right?
But it exists to complement what Crema's trying to achieve. And I always think like we are in service to the agency, we're in service to Crema. So how can we create our own little mission to help drive up to that as well? And that's what that does.
I think it's so good. And then what ends up happening is that as you remind us about that, then those disciplines of the daily stand-up, the bi-weekly, the fortnight, as we realized recently, the bi-weekly retrospectives and sprint planning, those are all reflective of that manifesto of who we are, right?
Yeah.
And I think then we can adapt, we can experiment, but because we're working within boundaries, and it's not just like, well, what do we want to do? We could do anything. It's like, no, we have a constraint of why we exist. And I think that's a really, really good approach.
Yeah. Another thing I'll add just popped into my head, and it probably fits more into a discipline, is I'm trying to reach out to other people like me working in agencies, trying to do marketing. So I have a couple key contacts, and it's not to just like commiserate per se. It's more like let's just share knowledge. And I've found that everyone is extremely generous with their feedback and their input. And it's awesome. So I'm talking to this girl who's running a marketing team for a really similar agency to us. In some respects, they're a competitor, but we serve different markets, and they have a different sort of target client. So I don't find it to be too in combat to what we do, but she's been amazing at just like helping me run ideas past her and give me feedback, because she's tried some things we've done, and vice versa. I'm helping to give her input on some initiatives they want to try. And that's been really good for me to just like think outside ourselves for a second and get feedback from maybe what a blog misses is how to do it for an agency, like how to do B2B sales and marketing for an agency. It's hard to find those resources.
Right.
So
everybody talks about how to market a product, or how to market, how to market maybe a service like tree trimming or something like that, or plumbing.
Sure. Yeah.
But not this high-end professional services space. Nobody talks about how to market and grow high-end professional services well.
Yeah.
Especially within your own agency.
Right. Exactly. So I can try to poke around the internet all day long, and I might, I'm trying to learn all the time. Yeah. But what I have found is I really gain the most when I'm talking to someone who speaks our same language and is trying to solve some similar issues. And we don't always, take their advice even. It's just good to maybe be a sounding board for what I'm trying to achieve, and give me feedback on that. So that's been a really fun discipline for me that I hope to grow my network more and more doing that.
When we think back to the kind of learning loop, or the cycle that you go through in this framework, right? There's this idea of pay attention, collect ideas, make a decision, run an experiment, and then share. And I think that the sharing is something that I'm glad we chose to say there's one last step, and that is to share.
Right.
Because I think that the sharing war stories is probably one of my favorite things to do. Dan and I do this with a lot of other agencies that we have relationships with now all over the world, where we'll reach out and just be like, hey, you guys are doing very similar work to us, or at least there's enough parallels. What are you doing in this situation? Like, what about how do you handle this? And does that work? No, that failed. Yeah, us too.
Right.
And I think that is such an encouraging way to learn, because as you share, you're forcing yourself to go, yeah, I got to be honest. We tried it. It worked, or it didn't work. And that forces you to learn when you have to say it out loud. And I think that's a really, I think we should highlight that more, because you're the second person. I think Justin on our last podcast talked about the fact that from a coaching perspective, he's reaching out to other coaches at different organizations. You're reaching out to other marketers at different agencies. Mm-hmm. Dan and I reach out to other business owners at other agencies or other businesses. And I think there's a lot to be said for that peer nature between organizations as well.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
Well, what's something as you're, planning, where I know we're getting ready to kind of plan for Q3 already, which is insane.
Yeah.
What's something you're excited for the future of the growth team and the marketing that Crema's doing?
There's so many things I'm excited about.
Anything you want to plug?
We do have an upcoming webinar series about the ROI of software that we're formulating. I think that's going to be really, really valuable. I hope it's not too soon. We haven't totally landed the plane on it. But my point with that is we're trying to create more sales enablement content. And that's been like, sales enablement is a word we've thrown out. We create a lot of case studies and other assets for our sales team. But this will be kind of our first foray into sales enablement webinars and those types of assets to help our potential clients just vet us in a different way, right? Yeah. Like having a face and having a conversation with us before reaching out on our site, for example. So I'm really excited about that. And kind of going back to what I said earlier is, providing value to people. I'm really excited about our coaching service and these toolkits that we're providing, or the tool trainings that we're starting to leak out. To me, it's exactly what I think our market might need. Like, how can I use this tool now that I'm distributed and trying to align my team? We're really good at that. And now we're finding ways to package that up and give that to other people. Yeah. So I think just continuing to grow our repository of resources is really where I'm excited. And hopefully that that evolves into something more than what we do today. But yeah. I'm really excited.
I'll push that plug a little further. If you're exploring and you need help with a new SaaS tool that's helping you run your product teams, like Miro for whiteboard, collaborative whiteboards online, or Asana or something like that, our coaches are masters at those tools and would love to help you out. So little push on the plug there. So awesome. Well, Alexa, thank you so much for joining today. This has been so cool. I love the work that the growth team's doing. You guys are crushing it. And I know a lot of people that follow us online. I get pinged all the time, like, how are you doing all that work? And I'm like, we have a small but mighty team.
They are small but mighty. It's been great. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to be a resource to anybody. If you're listening and have some follow-ups, just find me on, I think my email's on our site. So I'd love to connect.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to another episode of Option 5. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you happen to, though, get over to iTunes, leave us a review. We want more reviews. We're begging for them now. I mean, it just takes a couple minutes. It's hard to find, though. So go to iTunes. Get into your iTunes, look for Option 5, make sure it's our Option 5. There is another one. And then actually get to giving us a 5-star review. That'd be huge. And if you could, grab the link and share it with your peers and with your bosses, with your friends, and tell them that you found this awesome podcast about how to build adaptive teams. What else, Dan? Did I miss anything? Did I do it all right that time?
Nailed it. You're getting really good at that.
I just really need
have to be honest.
I just need affirmation from you as much as possible.
You nailed it. You do so. I'm done.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
My name is Justin Kloss, and I'm an application developer here at Crema. I work alongside a team of other app developers and help to create applications that better companies in a wide range of industries. I spend most of my time working on front-end development and more specifically mobile development in React Native. I enjoy working at Crema because of its collaborative nature and its continual adaptation to this ever-changing industry. Option 5 is a podcast by Crema, a digital product agency that creates web and mobile apps for disruptive companies and industry leaders. We believe that design, technology, and culture can help create a world where individuals and companies thrive. Learn more at crema.us.